Alright, so inequalities. We're going to skip this first section, so we're just going to forget that for a minute. Alright, so when we see the word inequality, remember we see that prefix in, it means not. Alright, that's going to mean not. And then equal, it's going to mean not equal. Alright, so it's very similar to an equation, but an equation is equal to something, where an inequality is not. Now, in order to get an inequality to be graphed, first step, we're going to get the variable by itself as normal, and I'll say with equations. All right, it's very similar to equations where we're not going to do much different to get the variable by itself, except if you divide, I should put or multiply by a negative, it flips the inequality. And we'll talk more about that later, but it just takes the inequality and flips it around. If it's greater than, it flips to less than. But that's only when you divide by a negative or multiply by a negative. It's just the only exception that happens, because if you divide by a negative or multiply by a negative, it just doesn't make it true unless you flip it. All right, so just a quick little reminder of things that are going on. Remember, this sign right here is greater than. That sign right there, that little underline, is going to mean greater than also. But the underlined part's going to be an equal to also. So it's going to be greater than or equal to. All right. Over here is just going to be their opposites. Less than. And then here, less than or equal to. All right. Now, to go back when you first learned this, listen, in your head, it's okay to sit there and say, the alligator eats the bigger number. Rah, 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 rah. It's okay to think through that, but have an idea what they mean. I want you to be able to read what this means. So, for example, this. I want you to look at this and say x is greater than 3. All right? Now, one way to look at this is, this is a less than. Look at the sign. It even looks like an L, where that one doesn't. So if you look at this, it even looks like an L. So if it looks like an L, it's less than. If it doesn't look like an L, then it's going to be greater than. All right? So just small little tricks so that you can sound somewhat intelligent when you start saying this. Now, when we look at this, when I say graph the inequalities, you may look at that going, why? Why can't I just say it's that? Because what happens is, think about this. Before, we had x equals 3. And when I had x equals 3, that was just one answer. It's x equals 3. Where this one's different because x is greater than 3. Well, think of all the numbers greater than 3. There's 4, there's 5, there's 6, there's 7, there's 8, there's 9, there's 10. But then think of all the decimals, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, 3.5. So I don't want to list them all. You can if you want to, but there's an infinite amount of them, so we'll go from there. Usually what I'll do is I'll start with 0, and I'll start with 3. All right. There's a couple different ways to do this, and I'll show you 2 different ways later on. But usually I'll start with 0 on here just as my reference point, and I'll look at 3. Now, here's the part that's going to be weird. Now I want to go back up here for a second. When I look at this, when you graph, use a, all right, I want to use an open circle, all right, on greater than or less than. I want to use an open circle. What that open circle means is it's everything except for where that circle's on. And I know it's going to be like, what? And I'll promise to explain more in a second. If you're doing equal to, then we're going to do a closed circle. All right? Now, here's what I mean by that. Here, x is greater than 3. But is 3 greater than 3? I know my answer is at 3, but is at 3 work? Is 3 greater than 3? No, but the point right there is 3.000000001 is greater than 3. But I don't know how to use that, so I'm going to say an open circle, which means every point up to 3 except for 3. All right, so not 3. 3 is not greater than 3, but everything really close to it on this side is. So I'm going to use an open circle. Now I want every point that's greater than 3. So am I going to go towards 0 or away from 0? Well, let's use 0 as an example. Is 0 greater than 3? No. All right, so I'm going to go this way because every point over here is greater than 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1 million. It'd be over here. 1 million greater than 3? Yes, it's one of the points. So when you look at an inequality, notice there's not just one answer. There's a bunch of different types of answers. All right, so real quick, don't pause it. All right, see if you can graph B on your own. Take about 30 seconds. All right, so I'm at 5, so I'm going to do a filled in circle this time because x is less than or equal to. So I'm including 5. Is 5 less than or equal to 5? Yes, so I want to include it. That's why we fill it in. So we fill it in to include it, leave it open to say no, it's not included. Now I'm going to say I want everything x less than or equal to 5. So let's use 0 again. Is 0 less than or equal to 5? Yes. So I want every point over here. Notice if I pick a point over here, 6. Is 6 less than or equal to 5? No. So I don't want that point. So I want every point to the left of 5. Now you may see a little shortcut. For example, look which way it's pointing. The inequality is pointing that way, and that's which way my line goes. Here my inequality is pointing that way, and that's which way my line goes. That works for all of them except for this. All right. Notice how x is on the other side now. So I put 0, I put 5. I want a closed circle because it's underlined. So I'm including 5. 5 is less than or equal to 5. Yes. So I'm going to keep 5 there. Now let's try 0. Is 5 less than or equal to 0? Sorry, my little cut off. So here I look at it and say, okay, is 5 less than or equal to 0? No. So I push it that way, and that's where I go. And that's where my answer is. So I know this is going to be a little confusing for a while. Like I said, it won't be anything that's too confusing later on. It's going to be a little weird for a while, but use this as a reference point to keep coming back to.